a hacker group called Darkside. They have posted a partial apology saying they're just trying to make money. And then they sell themselves by saying they donate some of it to charity. Oh, Robin Hood hackers. That sounds great. How well is our essential infrastructure actually protected? Joining me tonight, white hat hacker and founder and CEO of Trusted SEC or SEC. Is it SEC or SEC?
It's SEC.
I'm sorry.
You're close.
Like triple SEC, but trusted. Dave Kennedy is back. I love your last name, Dave. So let us discuss here.
It's a Panassa one.
It's a great name. So Darkside, they've been at this for a while because they do make money. They make about $300,000 every time they make one of these ransomware hacks. And it seems as though the Colonial Pipeline might be negotiating with them. So if people are paying, what's to stop them?
You're absolutely right, Kennedy. Thanks for having me on. This is a problem not just with Darkside itself, but just the ransomware industry as a whole. They're making millions and millions and millions of dollars. You had mentioned the figure of $300,000. We've seen them pay upwards of $5 million, $10 million, $20 million to get their recovery of files back. It all depends on the size of the company. So if you're a larger company, expect to pay more because you have more money. And so they're making tons of money off of this, and there's no decentivization whatsoever to stop these payments because they target their backups, they target everything that they do to operate as a business. And these companies are just crippled, shut down. They can't do business anymore. Literally everything that they built over the past 15, 20, 30, 50, 100 years, completely nuked in a blink of an eye. And these companies make out with, or these organized crime groups make out with a ton of money with it. It's absolutely terrible, and it's a major pandemic that we face on the cyber side that we're dealing with right now, and it's happening, unfortunately, every single day.
So where are we most vulnerable? Because think about all of the implements along that chain that require some device that can be hacked. You know, think about our satellites. You know, we're seeing it with energy. We've seen it throughout municipal governments. Where are we most vulnerable?
We have this infrastructure, what we call critical infrastructure, which is some of the core things that run our energy, our water treatment facilities. We saw recently in Florida where there was a water treatment facility that was hacked that turned the water actually poisonous. So we're seeing more and more of these actual hacks that, frankly, us computer nerds have been talking about for years, but it's actually happening now. We're actually seeing critical infrastructure being targeted. Just a few years ago, the FBI released what's called a CERT or advisory that the Russians were hacking into our energy grid to potentially shut it down in the event that there was a conflict. We're most vulnerable in these older systems that control things like oil, our pipelines, things that control our energy, things that control our water, radar, for our aircrafts. All of those things are really, really old legacy systems that, frankly, very difficult to secure. And these companies really don't take it really seriously. And this is what we find is that they get hit with ransom and they really have to either pay the ransom or rebuild from scratch, which can take months. So most of the time they pay the ransom to recover from these.
Yes. And unfortunately, Kirsten Gillibrand was mocked for saying that childcare is infrastructure. But listening to you, I think, isn't infrastructure? Like, isn't this the kind of stuff we're going to be spending trillions of dollars, which we shouldn't on most things. But if we're going to, shouldn't we be spending it here?
Yeah, critical infrastructure needs the most amount of care and attention. I mean, if you think about it, these systems are 15, 20, 30 years old. And they haven't been touched because they've just worked and have run properly over these periods of time. And it's archaic technology. And even the newer stuff, they have what are called SCADA infrastructure, which is essentially it runs our energy infrastructure and critical infrastructure. All of those are notoriously riddled with security vulnerabilities and holes. And unfortunately, we're not focusing on that as some of our main considered efforts of protection and defense. But we're starting to get better. If you look at CISA, the Critical Infrastructure Security Agency, really focusing on trying to protect, from a defensive perspective, all of those different areas, but we still have a really long ways to go. And these organized crime groups and nation states have a long ways, have a much upper hand on all of them.
Well, at least they're not attacking Romania, my people. Dave, do we have enough good nerds?
We do. I mean, the industry itself, the cybersecurity industry is booming. It's one of the fastest growing industries in technology. The biggest issue is companies investing in security and focusing on the important areas that they do. A lot of these companies don't feel like they're big enough to be targeted by a nation state. Critical infrastructure is like, well, it's working now. It's not going to break. It's really bringing an awareness to build these defenses in place that are proven techniques that can really help shed these types of attacks in the future. But unfortunately, most of these organizations don't spend the amount of resources to actually fix them. They feel like they're not going to be the ones that are going to be targeted or the first ones hit.
All right. Dave Kennedy, thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you.
We'll see you again, I think. No, we won't. Coming up, a lousy jobs report showing just how much the Biden administration